Yes. Cool. Yep. Right. So we're going to be reviewing what we have found previously, but now look at some processes and results that we might expect a basketball team application to produce. Now, efficiency and reliability are always important. So reliability, obviously, that we get the correct results from the correct operation. So I'll pass over to Gordon for the next partner.
Yeah, so sometimes we're going to be handling a full set of data, but sometimes it can be more appropriate to handle a subset of the data. So before we get too far into this, it's really important to take that step back and think about the problem at a more abstract level.
So just a reminder of our Venn diagram that we've had for a few sessions now. And this hopefully helps us remember how objects can have an identity as both a subclass, so coach and player, or superclass person, and the relevant behaviors that go with this.
So we're looking here at a reminder from a couple of weeks ago that the umbrellas that we're using actually signify different sets of behaviors. So we're expecting for the players, the subclass of player and the subclass of coach, red is signifying a player and a blue umbrella signifies a coach. A rainbow umbrella indicates the superclass of person, and it means that the player or coach will behave like a person when that context is applied to them.
And if we just look at the Venn diagram again, some of the more observant people will already have noticed that we've added some kind of new temporary methods just for this frame, and just to make the example a bit more kind of realistic and a bit more interesting.
So you can see that we've adapted the say hello to a get details method. It's acting in much the same way. It's just being a bit more useful for us for the context we want to work in. And you can see some example data. Dana Wood, the coach level 2, and Morgan Reynolds on the under 18 team. And we're going to be using that to enable badges to be made. You can see some examples of those badges just below the Venn diagram. We've also got new getter methods of get level, get shirt, and get captain, just to free up a little bit more scope for us with what we want to work with just now.
So let's look at some of the requirements for some of these processes that might be used with this kind of team data. So we're looking at these kind of boxes here. So we've got find person, so I might want to return full names which match a specified part name. So I want to do some substring operations on there. Or I might want to count the age. So I want to count occurrences to go on, and I want to find how many people are over age or a particular age. Make badges. As Gordon mentioned, we might want some ID badges with details, which we can use. Award levels. So if I start thinking about my coaches, coaches had a qualification, so they might have done a training course, and I want to kind of up their level. So I want to give a specified level to them. Or I'm with the same kind of people in mind. I might want to count them who've gained a specified level. Or likewise, I know the guy with the person with team number 2 on the back of their shirt. I want to get their name. So starting with a set of coaches, and the coaches should already be in place with the blue umbrellas. So it is okay to use a set of coaches with the find person, because we need to use the behaviors available to coach that are behaving as a coach. So we're okay with that. The getter methods are superclass, although they're in the superclass, they are superclass person inherited behaviors. Now, if I drag my coaches down to count age, my dragging is working okay today, that's good. So in a similar way, this count age will also work. It also needs coaches to use these inherited behaviors.
So let's have a wee look at how this make badges method works. Again, using the coaches. Again, this is using the override behavior of the get details to produce those badges. So that override behavior we can see in the sort of Venn diagram up at the top right of get details. And it's still okay for a set of coaches to be used because the object can perform those overridden behaviors.
So now we're going to drag these coaches, and they're getting busy. I'm dragging, hopefully it's still working. We're on the go. So I've dragged this coach group down to award level now. Now, award level is different. It makes use of this change qualification method, which is subclass specific. Now, it does work for a set of coaches. They can perform this behavior, the same as if I drag them to count age. And sorry, count level, sorry, dragged them the wrong way there. Because it uses coach-specific behavior.
However, if we take our coaches down and try and apply that to the find shirt process, this will fail because the coach objects in the set don't have access to the get shirt behavior. Get shirt is a specific method for player, so coaches cannot access that. So if we try and get a coach to use find shirt, or use find shirt on the coaches array of objects, we're going to get errors and all sorts of bad things happening.
So if I drag these coaches away just to over there, and I remember the red umbrella is players. If I drag my player group to where am I putting them to? Find shirt. That should would that be okay, Gordon?
Yeah, I mean, if we look at the player, anything that a person can do that the coach could do, we'll see the same behavior. So find person, for example, if we pop them up to find person, where's my mouse gone now? There you are. We bring them up to find person or count age. We have the same effect as coach. They can access the same methods and so on. Make badges will also work, but we'll get a different output because it's an overridden behavior. So although get details can be used within the make badges process, we will get a slightly different result, and we can see that in the badges produced just below the Venn diagram. In terms of award level and count level will both fail because that's to do with qualifications. And you're probably using get level and the change qualification methods, which are only defined for the coach. Players will not be able to access those methods. They do not have those methods. There's no overrides in there. So that will essentially fail. However, our last process of find shirt will work because, of course, player has access to the get shirt method.
So we'll be brave and try and drag multiple things now. So I'm going to drag my coaches are back in play again, and I'm going to grab them up to find person. And I'm also going to grab my player group as well. So now we're going to think about presenting both sets, so the player set and the coach set to each process. Now, hopefully, the same outcomes will happen. I can find a person with these two sets. That's fine. So find person's okay. If I've been brave, I'd try and grab both of them at the same time, but it's working, so I'm going to go with that. Count age, that would be fine. Both can do. Sorry, both players and coaches can perform this behavior, and the same for make badges. So if I drag that one down, so they can both perform these three behaviors so far.
However, award level, count level, and find shirt will all fail. This is either because we're trying to use a player to perform a coach behavior or a coach to perform a player behavior. Either way around, it's not going to work. So we're not presenting the processes with the information that they're looking for.
Now, if we bring the person group, so signified by the rainbow umbrella, I drag these up to find person. Now we're going to think about presenting this set of player and coach objects where they're behaving like persons. And remember, this is signified by the rainbow umbrella.
So as before, the the processes for find player, find person, count age, and make badges, all grand. They can perform the behaviors needed, and these behaviors are indeed person behaviors. It even works with the overridden behaviors. Players will do the player version, and coaches will do the coaches version, particularly within that make badges area where we're using get details. Player's going to play and coach is going to coach. This is despite the fact that they're both behaving as persons rather than players and coaches. They will still access the overridden method.
However, again, things fail when we come to the last three processes, so award level, count level, and find shirt, because they require behaviors that are not person behaviors. They are specific to the player and coach. So to kind of summarize this kind of slide, the larger group is more efficient, but kind of, as we've mentioned a few times, mixed types are only suitable for some.
So what this means is the use of the super identity, in this case person, it does allow a single set of data to be processed rather than two distinct sets, players and coaches, but it does have limitations. And this is where it's critical for our young people. We really need to think about the abstraction level of this and what is it that we're actually going to be doing with this data. And getting away from the idea that, well, using this polymorphism is best because it's the newest and most complex thing we've got. It's actually about what suits the requirements of the program at that time, and having very clear requirements to allow the young person to decide which to do.
Now, hopefully, when I go to the next frame, it will go to the frame I want it to. Bear with me. It's not. No, it's going to some random place. So I will just stop the presenting and go and find it. So we should be on to polymorphism, an array of objects types. So I just click on that one. There we go. Cool. So hopefully,
yeah, so this,
yep,
that's all looking fine, Mark.
Cool.
And actually, this reminds me, like, this is what I started off with, the kind of the UML class diagrams and understanding methods and properties and then inheritance. So I think over the 4 sessions that we've done, what is really newer to me and what I've kind of really developed my understanding of is these groups of objects, arrays of objects. That's where my understanding is really developed. So hopefully looking at this and looking at some of the code, this is where we're going, how we start to use and do more stuff with this.
Yeah, definitely. So just to acknowledge, again, if we look at the UML diagram, you'll see those new cool methods that we brought in the last time, we've kind of forgotten about again. We're just going back to our original set of methods. And you'll notice in the UML that the team class directly relates only to the person superclass, and it doesn't deal with players and coaches. So just to kind of reinforce that, I'm going to try and hopefully just hide the player and hide the coach.
And at the same time, I am just showing an array, of visualization of the array, which again was something that I think these wee pictures really make clear to me, that in the array, there's not an array of objects. Actually, it's an array of references to objects. That player 1 is pointing to a player object, but also participant 0 is pointing to that same player object. So by hiding those things like you did there, Mark, what we're trying to show is, like, does the developer working on the team class that we can still see, do they really need to know anything about coaches and players? Okay, if we think that large projects, they'd be developed by teams with many more classes and subclasses, way more complicated than our diagram here. So the ability to hide some details that are irrelevant, that, I think that could probably happen without compromising the functionality.
Cool. So hopefully I've uncovered the coach and the player arrays here. So you'll notice the types of array. Now, participants can reference any subclass type. Player and coach can only reference their native type. Sorry,
So Yeah, so I'm just looking at the player type variables. That's the wee red and green blocks just above the kind of
Yes,
the boxes.
sorry,
Well,
yeah.
person type variables are all in green, player type variables all in red, and coach type variables all in blue. So they can only hold, just say that one again to me, Mark, that they can only hold
The reference native type.
of their native type. Okay.
Yeah. Now, I think it's kind of Gordon mentioned it earlier on. Using an array of superclass type can bring up opportunities and advantages for efficiency. You know, but it's like having that really cool tool in your shed. You know, it's only a cool tool if that's the one that does the job.
So now I'm kind of looking at the green array and thinking, so participants, they can only call the superclass and the override methods. Hiding those blocks A and B kind of makes that really clear now, that the participants, they can only use get name, get age, set age, say hello. They can use the say hello, the overridden version, but they're not using the A and B, the player and coach specific methods.
Yeah, I think as Gordon said, you know, they're all always limitations and not always appropriate, not just because it's a cool newest thing.
Yep.
Now, Gordon, I'll try and do you want to just hand it over to you for the next part?
If you could, please.
Yeah.
Good to go.
There you go.
Cool. Hopefully everyone's joined me down on the next board, which is looking at the array of objects. And if not, then good luck to you. I seem to be in editing mode. Oh, so what is that doing what that says? Yes, we are. I can see some thumbs up there. Brilliant, thank you. So now we've got that just one array of participants of person, rather than the two separate arrays of player and coach. So there's one method to add new person references to objects, be they person, player, or coach, and one loop only, to call a display method for all the elements. It's that kind of one ring to reunite them all type thing.
So let's look at some code that uses this new array. So we took on some feedback from the last one where we had the same line numbers appearing. So I'm looking at lines 41 to 44, where it says refactor 4. So I'm down where there's a blue and a red umbrella kind of kicking around. Now, you'll notice we've got the same method call, which is add participant, and it's adding both players and coaches. And just bring it back, if I put my higher hat on for a second, you know, we're bringing back the formal parameter, which if we jump up to refactor 2, which is lines 10 and 12 up there with the rainbow umbrella sitting beside it, you'll see that the formal parameter, it's expecting a person. But the actual parameters, and I'm jumping back down again to refactor 4, is at one point I'm getting passed in a player, and at one point I'm passing in a coach. But just to remember that we're passing references, not the actual objects. And we know, because we've kind of looked at it in previous weeks as well, we know that the person reference can be used for player and coach objects. Now, like when we're hiding and hiding things, the developer who's working on lines 10 to 12 up here, you know, they're working on the team class. They can potentially be completely unaware of the player and the coach classes, what it does, what they do, what methods they've got. They are working on the team classes. They may be completely unaware of its existence.
So if we head over and have a wee look at line 60, we'll see a little red umbrella sitting next to that, indicating that we're dealing with players. We're using, in this case, a player reference to a player type object within this array of persons to use the overridden method say hello. In line 61, we can see a person reference. Sorry, this is where the array is coming in, not in the player 2, that's just an individual. But in the participants 1, which is the array of persons, we're calling exactly the same method on exactly the same object. Participants 1 and player 2 are both referring to the same object. So we can do that quite happily.
And if we just keep on exploring the code just a tiny wee bit, I'm looking at line 70, which is in that kind of right-hand box underneath the participants array. In line 70, we're using a person reference to call an inherited method for a player object. And 71, we're using this, so participants2.sayHello, we're using the person reference to call the overridden method for this same player object.
Absolutely. Looking at that chunk of code lines 80, 81, and 82, again, we'll see we've got a red umbrella, but we've also got our rainbow umbrella, just to show that we've got a couple of different things going on here. We can use a player reference in line 80 to call the specialist subclass only method for the player object. That's the change shirt number. In line 81, we can display the result. Participants1.sayHello, that's quite happy doing that. In line 82, we've got an attempt to call the same method on the same object, but this instance in participants1, that is a reference to a person type object. So although it's pointing to the same object, there's no overrides, anything like that in here. So participants1.change shirt number to 8 will fail. This is because the reference expects the object to behave as a person, not as a player. And a person has no access to change shirt. Only methods that are available to the superclass and all subclasses using the override can be called using a super reference to an object.
Now, I'm hoping I'm not jumping the gun, but I think that's us finished the actual content. We're at the end.
I think
yeah,
we are.
A good comment from Peter in the Google Meet chat. Just really that last sentence, Peter, was really good. It's the variable type determines what methods can be accessed.
Yes.
So because participants is an array of person, then they've got access to the person methods. Because player 1 or player 2 or player objects, they've got access to the player methods too. And then the only thing that's really quite a bit more subtle, and it showed as well in the Venn diagram, was the overridden methods can still be called. So in the array of participants, when we say hello, it uses the overridden method from player or coach.
Yeah, and just seeing a couple of comments there in the chat as well. It's all down to Squirrel being a static language. So the underlying object referenced by the variable never changes its type, but how we're actually accessing it can be.
Cool.
I think we're going to head into some breakout rooms now.
Indeed.
Yeah, so that's the second part of the evening, and we'll try and we've just now the bunch board. It's going to be more interactive for everyone. So I think our backroom staff, they'll be picking us out or going back to Google Meet to join the breakout room.